Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today we're going to be talking about working as a licensed therapist online with my guest, Bethany Rule. Bethany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to have you as well. We actually have never had a licensed therapist on the show, and I know that a lot of people think about doing this online and consider whether it might be something they could do as a digital
Yeah,
nomad.
yeah, it really is. It's become a trend since COVID. So yeah,
Yeah, so I'd love to jump in and learn more about how you got started with this. Could you tell us about your background, Bethany, and what inspired you to start your digital nomad journey?
sure, absolutely. So I actually have quite a diverse background. I was working, excuse me, I was working as a chaplain in a women's correctional facility, actually in a women's prison for about 5.5 years before I started doing this, and then a mental health hospital for children. And so I was working in the world of spirituality, really trying to help people from whatever their own spiritual background was, which was a really beautiful and also really harrowing type of thing, working with women in prison and then working with children that had often been in the foster care system. Um, and so I loved that, loved working with those populations. But when COVID hit, I was already in these very like small, very locked doors types of places. And I really value freedom in my life. So just I figured that I might start transitioning more towards counseling. My school recruited me to come actually do their therapy program. And so I was like, well, this seems like a really good opportunity. Um, and then once COVID hit, I was just working out every day and I started listening to all these digital nomad podcasts. So it was really something that inspired me and something that I thought that maybe I could do since I had lived abroad when I was 16 in France multiple different times. So yeah, it was just very exciting in that way. And I found the lifestyle, the whole idea very, very inspiring.
That is such a journey that you've been on, and it sounds like COVID was really
Yeah,
this transitional thing. As you said, a lot of people started to shift this way, especially in the therapy space. But I'm
yeah.
curious, how did the shift, did the transition, was it what you thought it would be? What I'm curious, like what kind of, roadblocks you faced that you didn't expect, or how did that moving towards the digital nomad space happen for
Mhm.
you?
Yeah, so I actually I kind of beta tested it. I went and I did a couple of months in Spain before I fully transitioned over because I just wanted to see in terms of time changes and in terms of meeting with people online if that was going to work. Um, but it really did work pretty well, and I was just excited to do it. So when I started doing therapy, my supervisor asked me, "Do you ever want to see people in person?" And I said, "No, no, I don't." And she did ask me that a few different times. But my goal was always to do more traveling. And I'm so glad that I did that. And my supervisor's been so amazing. And she just jokes that I'm going to go off and do van life or something. So she knows exactly what I'm doing and wants to support. So it was just cool to have someone alongside me who really did support my vision and my goals in that way.
Yes.
Yeah,
You've mentioned the supervisor. Is there,
yeah.
like, are there requirements that you need to
Mhm,
transition from in person to online? Are there certain courses that you need? What was required for you to go from what you were doing before to being able
mhm.
to interview online or to give therapy, I should say online?
Yeah, so the way that the world has transitioned after COVID, if you have a degree and you're licensed, anyone can be doing online therapy, and there are different rules and different statutes from state to state. But where I'm licensed, where I'm provisionally licensed, anyone can do it. But you do have to have gone to school, which includes like internships with counseling hours. You have to pass the national counseling licensing exam. So there are quite a few steps, and then you have to do a year of just one-on-one supervision, which is what I'm doing right now. Let's see, I guess actually it's a 2 year process, and I am about a year and a half into that process. So I'm starting to come up on being done with it, which is really exciting. So,
So
yeah.
even though you were already licensed, you had to go to a school and there was a special 2 year transition route, you're saying, including being supervised online.
Yeah, so I was not previously licensed. Like I fully switched over from chaplaincy to doing this. And so I
Okay.
did I did school during COVID. That was one of the things that was A challenge and a joy about being kind of secluded during COVID was that I was able to get my degree and get it mainly online. So that was really cool.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great. Okay, thank you for
yeah.
educating me on. I didn't know the
Hmm.
difference between being a chaplain if that involved a type of like previous work with therapy, because I can imagine, it is helping and working with people.
Yeah, yeah. So a chaplain is actually a spirituality role, and actually it's an ordained clergy role. So I went to seminary and was licensed and did lots of training for that. But my whole training, my life's journey has been kind of about learning to listen to people. Um, and so, if you have a pastor of a church, that person is teaching only those religious values and working only with their congregation. But a chaplain is someone who works with like a hospital or in the military or in a prison, and they help everyone from all spiritual backgrounds without sharing their own beliefs. And so, a lot of times, you're at the deathbed with someone and talking about the meaning that they made out of their life, or you're talking to a child that's experienced abuse, and so you're just trying to make meaning out of suffering. And so if someone wants a prayer, you can pray with them. But for example, when I had Jewish patients, I would find their rabbi, or a Muslim patient, I would call their imam and help get them whatever services they wanted. Um, and for me, the sacred and the secular are not as divorced as most people think they are. Um, and so the transition to counseling was just easier because it already felt like I was doing that in many different ways, just listening to people in an unbiased, objective, loving way. And I really just wanted to make sure that I had the full in-depth psychological training to kind of transition fully over into that world, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. I know there is
Yeah,
overlap with the listening and
yeah.
the,
Hmm.
making space for people, but yes, of course you
Yeah,
would need more training if you had not had that before. And I
sure.
know, because you mentioned your state, there's a lot of, just from my own experience looking for counselors
Yeah.
in the past, there's a lot of rules around how you can practice depending on what state you get
Hmm.
your degree from. Do you know
Yeah.
offhand, or can you share any
Hmm.
more about that? Because, for example, I have been based in Portugal, and I have tried to
Yeah.
contact a counselor from Florida, and because I
Hmm.
am from Ohio State, they said we cannot do online therapy, and I was surprised by that because I
Hmm.
thought, it would be possible because we could do it online, but there's a lot of rules about it.
Sure, there are. And there are subtleties and there are different things depending on where someone is licensed and how they're licensed, because there's different kinds of counselors and therapists, that kind of thing. But likely what you were being told is that you need to be with someone who is from the state that you are physically in. And that is a thing for people who are receiving counseling. So that does often become an issue. But for people who are wanting to be counselors themselves and who do have the permission to be mobile, something that I think people should be watching is right now, counseling licensure and oftentimes therapy or social work licensure is by state. But I think what we're seeing and what I've heard is in the works is that over the next year they're going to try to centralize that a bit more. And so like it's not going to be state by state rules anymore, likely. It's likely moving into more of a space where there's going to be national licensure for these different groupings and certifications, at least in the counseling world. Um, so I would encourage anyone to double check that and to kind of watch that in the news, because I don't speak for anyone, but that's just what I've been hearing, and that would make sense to me, just kind of a centralization. So I think that we will see the work boundaries both open up more, and then probably the way insurance works will also become a bit more managed because that generally follows when space opens up too. So
Oh, we
yeah,
will we will definitely be watching that. That would be such a great
yeah,
change because so many people need help out there, but if you've got a barrier like that, it's just so
yeah,
difficult.
yeah, definitely. Hmm.
And for people like you who are wanting to become digital nomads, they want to get out and, you know, share their skills, but also be able to do it from anywhere and live the life that you would like as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm curious,
That's true.
what is a typical day for you like as a therapist? How did you find, if you don't mind sharing, how did you find your current
Hmm.
clients? And we've
Yeah,
already, yeah, and anything else you'd like to share about your daily life doing your job while being a digital nomad?
sure, absolutely. So I I do love my life. It's great. which is
Great.
really awesome. I just feel really satisfied. Whereas I think during COVID, things were just difficult, and they were difficult for everyone. But so I probably see anywhere between 4 to 8 clients every day, maybe like 4 or 5 days a week. And so that's just time where I'm speaking with them online. I do work with a local practice, which is what I really love and would encourage other people to do. I think the more, if someone wants to do this, I think the more corporate types of places that you get into have more restrictions, or just more difficult hoops to jump through. So I'm super happy that I'm with a local practice where I do get a lot of my referrals from. But I also advertise online and get people that way, or just word of mouth. People know like, hey, that's really cool. I'd like to talk to her, or through other clients. That's a good way to get referrals. But yeah, it's 4 or 5 hours of listening every day, and then usually if I'm traveling, usually I'll try to go do something fun, whether it's a new place that I want to go see or meeting local people. Um, and I try to keep a daily routine. So I try to go to the gym. I do meditation. I don't journal every day, but either in the morning or in the evening, just to kind of process my thoughts. That's something that I would do. But yeah, and then just a little bit of administrative work, some emailing, scheduling clients, that kind of thing. Um, and then also, I make sure that I do my own therapy for me. Like I also have a therapist who I see, just because I'm dealing with so many other people's stuff, and then I'm traveling. So I want to make sure that I'm healthy and I'm balanced. So I see someone as well, once a week. So
Oh,
yeah,
that for me makes you even more hireable. Like I want to have you as my therapist even more
yeah,
if I hear my therapist makes sure that she takes care of herself. So that's
yeah,
so important. Are each of your sessions
yeah.
one hour?
About an hour. Yeah. Sometimes a little more, a little less, but yeah, that's how it shakes out. So yeah.
And you mentioned the local practice, which I assume is in your state that you where you were
hmm
studying. Is it
Yeah.
possible, under the rules that you have, is it possible for you to have, let's say, a client who is Spanish or based in Spain
hmm
or European countries, or do they need to be based in the US?
Yeah. So in order for them to be going through the counseling practice that I am a part of, yes, they would need to be based out of either Kansas or Missouri. Or if I'm seeing someone in some kind of capacity, I have to be careful about the language. But we would not be calling it licensed counseling if I was taking people that are outside of my states. So, but I am trying to pick up people more for something we might call like coaching, that kind of thing, as I'm meeting people traveling, because oftentimes people do want to talk, but we'd have to be careful not to call it licensed counseling. So
I was
yeah.
very curious about how that works because yeah,
hmm
your license is a different type in a different type of way, but I know that you must meet people along the way outside of the
Yes.
US that
hmm
may want your services. So you can, if I
Sure.
understand correctly, you can help them and be paid for it, but it cannot be called licensed therapy. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. hmm
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Because every once in a while, a lot of times I meet people on the road who are dealing with some grief and loss types of issues that tends to come up in people's lives, especially people who are traveling. Um, and so that's not something where we're billing insurance. But it might just be something where I listen to them for a little while. So in an unofficial way where we're not billing insurance, and it's not exactly the same thing. So maybe just calling it grief support or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, in a way, it kind of sounds like when we get travel insurance, sometimes you are going to pay everything up front and you don't mind, that you're not even
Yep.
insured, for example,
hmm
but sometimes you're
Yeah.
covered right away. So I guess it's like that.
hmm Exactly.
Um, while we're on the topic, you mentioned that you do sometimes talk
hmm
about grief and loss. Are there any other things that you
Yeah.
specialize in that you would like to share?
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff with couples and relationships, just kind of helping people understand who they are in relationship. I've kind of specialized lately, in folks who are dealing with infidelity. We know with the travel lifestyle that people are always trying to figure out what form of relationship works best for them and how much commitment, what attachment styles they have, that kind of thing. So I'm oftentimes helping people with that kind of work. And also, I've done a lot of stuff with women's issues, and with teenagers too, especially. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, if you could help the digital nomad community in a wider way, I know that that is often something we see. It's just people traveling so much, the nature
Yeah.
of relationships can sometimes be different.
Yeah.
We need more people with your specialty, Bethany.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm also curious, like, why would someone prefer to have counseling online versus in
Mhm.
person?
Right. And that is such a great question because we have some people who are old school and really just want to be in the room with someone. But people, it seems like they feel really comfortable when they're in their own home setting or private space. Um, and so I can also tell a lot about a person by how organized or disorganized their space is. People often bring their pets to therapy, which is really cute, but that's an extra way for them to kind of receive some comfort and support. I have a running joke with all my clients that Timmy the dog is very neurotic and needs a lot of help, right? So people love to joke that way. It's really funny when you start having the pets show up in the frame. Yeah, so there's that. Just feeling comfortable and then being able to do it um, kind of from where they're at. So being in a home space or just being in a space that feels comfortable for them. So yeah.
I would imagine that like the in-person component, it holds them more, makes them more accountable. So do you see
Uh-huh.
people, some of your clients, do you find that they no show more often or they're late and don't respect the time as much because they just feel more relaxed in their space?
Yeah, so we definitely have policies and practices about that, and a way of kind of setting expectations, which I've learned both in the chaplaincy world and as a counselor, is we have a policy that if there is a late cancellation within 24 hours or a no-show, there's $100 late fee, which does not go to any insurance. That's just a part of our policy and our practice. And so I disclose that on the very first session. I say it's totally fine to cancel or to reschedule. Just let me know a day in advance, right? Because this is my work and my livelihood too. Um, and so then people know, and so it's not a surprise when that happens. So that's how I get people to respect my time and just kind of know what are the expectations and the boundaries of our relationship. So yeah.
Yes, I'm glad there's something in place. I feel like, yeah, it's probably necessary if
Mhm.
anybody's starting a practice such as this.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
so I'm also wondering, like, are there any other tips that you have if people want to become online therapists?
Um, I would say do it. Like I think
Okay.
for some people it just feels like it's a risk just to kind of shift. Um, Whether they're wanting to do that just because of life constraints or they're wanting to go traveling. But I would say just take the risk. Like the rewards are so worth it. I'm so happy that I did. And I think I waited a couple of years in between when I took the national counseling exam to kind of start the process and start transitioning more towards this life. Just because I really love, in some ways, really, really loved what I was doing at the mental health hospital. Um, but yeah, I'm so glad because I really value freedom and travel. So it's a little bit less on the logistical side than it is kind of on the existential. So I would say to people, ask yourself what you want your life to be about, what you want to be doing, and kind of go from there. So yeah,
Great advice. I had one other question, something I've always wanted to ask a therapist, actually.
yeah, sure.
I know this depends on the person, but generally, how long do you think people should seek therapy before
Sure.
yeah, how long in general?
Sure. And so everyone is different, as I'm sure you would know. But a lot of times, I would say your average treatment course is maybe between 4 to 6 months. And so with me, oftentimes people come and they're usually in crisis, experiencing something difficult. So they're seeing me on a weekly basis. But once we kind of stabilize them, get them a few coping skills, help them to feel like, okay, I'm doing okay enough. Then we start to go to 2 weeks, 3 weeks, once a month, and we go down to kind of more of a maintenance phase. And then I have people that will come back every couple months or every 3 months and just check in just to make sure that they're doing okay. But that's how it starts. It starts off kind of regular, and it just becomes more and more kind of pieced out once people start to heal and start to do their work and start doing better. So it just depends on the person.
It's really good to hear too, but also a good if you're
Yeah,
thinking of making this a business, something to keep in
yeah,
mind with the flow of the new patients or the new clients and how long it's going to take with the,
sure.
the frequency of
Yeah.
how many people you're seeing.
Hmm.
So,
Totally. Yeah.
well, Bethany, now I'd like to switch into a little more of the travel side, and I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
some
Hmm.
lightning round questions. Are you
Sounds good.
ready?
Sure.
Okay, so my first question to you is, what's one thing that you wish you knew about being a nomad before you started your journey?
Hmm. Sure. And so when I was listening to all these beautiful podcasts, I think I imagine digital nomad world as just like this huge community of people where people support and love each other, which it is in many ways, but there are still cliques and groups. And so you have to be able to kind of find who your people are. And so both with people and with co-livings or spaces that you're living in, I have learned like that some people you will really click with, and so to find those people. But then also if you're in a co-living or some kind of living space and it doesn't feel like it's a fit, like move on immediately. So I think it's just like having the confidence in yourself to be like, these people don't feel correct to me, or oh, this co-living doesn't feel correct to me, and I'm going to move on because I've had many more good experiences both with friends and with co-livings once I've been able to just be like, oh, it's not that person or that co-living's fault, but just move on. Find the people and the space where you feel really good, where you feel like yourself. So
Yeah,
yeah.
excellent advice. Sometimes it's that
Hmm.
person setting the tone at the co-living or who's managing it that
Yes.
ultimately
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
maybe the person you're not going to
Totally.
vibe with. So, yeah,
Yeah,
move on quickly.
definitely.
There's a lot, it's a big digital nomad world out there. So, there's
Yes.
people you will find. Okay, my next question is, what's one thing you could not live without while traveling?
White noise machine for the win.
Yes.
so
Nice
so
one.
both for therapy, yeah, both for therapy clients to keep confidentiality, but then that helps me sleep because as you may know, when you're traveling, sometimes you are in places that are not the most quiet, and so like that helps me just to be well rested, to be peaceful. So that's definitely something I can't live without.
Absolutely. There's so much you have to manage sometimes about the environment that you're in. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
What brand is your white noise machine? Do you specifically recommend the one you have?
I don't know. I just looked for one. It looks like it says B on the back, so I don't know. I think it's just
Okay.
any that fits, but that one has multifunction, different sounds, different lights, different things you can put it on. So that's nice. But yeah,
Yeah, a little variety. Okay.
yeah,
My next question is, what's your favorite travel book that inspired you?
yeah. And so I brought a poem for you today because I really love the Zen Buddhist priest Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed recently. I Some of the things that inspire me to travel are just all the people that I've worked with, just the beautiful women and children, the people of the world who I have run into both in work and into travel. And so I would love to read this for you if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. First poem we've had
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah. So this is a poem that's called Please Call Me by My True Names, and I would like to dedicate it to all the women and the children that I've worked with over the years. Please call me by my true names. Do not say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second, I am arriving. To be a bud on a spring branch. To be a tiny bird with my wings still fragile, learning to sing in my new nest. To be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower. To be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of a river, and I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond, and I am the grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. and I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, a refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am also the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands. And I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people, dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and my pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up and the door of my heart could be left open, the door of compassion.
Wow, that is so beautiful, Bethany. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope everybody
Yeah,
listens to this as many times as they need, and it's really, really powerful. I can see why that moved you so much when you heard it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it
Yes.
reminded me of, yeah, all the experiences, ups and the downs that we all experience, and it is all
Yeah,
one. We step back and
yeah,
think about it. Wow. I,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think this kind of goes well into the next question is if you were speaking to someone interested in getting out
Mhm.
there into the big world and starting as a digital nomad, but they're feeling afraid, what would you tell
Sure.
them?
Yeah. I think there's a timing to all of our lives, and I think there are developmental windows when we're ready to do something. Um, and so I think you just have to be able to sit within yourself, and figure out whether or not you're willing to take the risk and if the time is right. Um, like I said before, I think it's so worth it. Um, but maybe just dipping a toe in the water or trying it out as I did. Like I said, I beta tested it. Um, but taking risks in life is so worth it. And there's so much to be gained if you're willing to go out, just take the risk, meet other people, and travel. So
Yeah.
that would be my advice to anyone who's thinking about starting out.
Yeah. And do you have any tips for someone trying to find a remote job? I know that's often the barrier for people.
Yeah. So I will absolutely give you a therapeutic, and that is a thinking mistake, something we call a cognitive distortion. It's people often go into this black and white thinking of like, oh, there's just nothing I could do, or I have no skills, or no one would want to hire me. I'm not qualified enough. Um, and the vast majority of people, especially kind of in the Western world and the developed world, absolutely are and do have those skills. So I think honestly, it's more about people holding themselves back than it is about the availability of the jobs. Um, so I would say correct your thinking. Just be open to different opportunities. Be open to trying things that you thought you might never do, and that will really open up your world and bring a lot more things to you. It's one thing if someone needs some job coaching or some career coaching on like having a good resume or interviewing, but it's really what keeps people back is more their thinking mistakes and their own restricted view on the world. So, yep.
I would agree with that for sure. Talking with some people,
Hmm.
there's so many things and ways of looking at what you can do that you may not have even considered, which is one thing we try to do on this show is by showing all the different things people are doing out there. And we have this beautiful new experience to add to it. So, Bethany,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we go?
Um, just that taking risks is worth it, and I hope that all of you, yeah, just kind of receive that love, that wish for your happiness from the poem. Just take risks and live your life in a way that makes you happy and in a way that provides compassion to other people. So yeah,
Yeah, it's never too late to get started either.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people want to follow you, Bethany, is there any place they can go?
Yeah, you can follow my Instagram, which is Wanderlust Therapy with Beth. So I would love to connect with you there.
All right, we're going to put that in the description on both Spotify and YouTube. So thank you so much, Bethany, for joining us. It was wonderful to hear your story, and I wish you all the best on your continuing digital nomad journey.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.